We are recording this webinar, so we will be able to send this recording out after the fact. You can share it with your leadership teams, or alumni advisors and PMs can share that with all your students as well. So we'll send that around after this is over. And just another reminder, please keep yourself muted when you're not speaking during the course of the presentation. At the end, we'll open it up for questions when you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask those questions live. You can also type them into the chat box, which Justyn has so kindly showed us an example of, which leads me into, I'm also excited to share that we have a guest speaker with us today. I will introduce her in a little bit, but Justyn from Rad Campaign is going to join us to talk a little bit more about crowdfunding and best practices and some communication tactics. So we're very pleased to have her join us as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the basic of what is Raise the Dough. So Raise the Dough is a week-long online fundraising competition where each campus kitchen can compete against each other to see who can raise the most money and who can rally the most donors. Each of the most successful schools will win prizes. So while certainly it is an element of competition, when it gets down to the nuts and bolts, it's really a great opportunity for each individual campus kitchen to fundraise for their own program. So all of the money that you raise during the course of this week will come right back to your own campus kitchen. So it's a really great opportunity to raise money for, maybe it's a new refrigerator, or maybe you need new meal packaging products, whether it's clamshells or a hot box to transport your food in. This is a great opportunity to raise money for your campus kitchen. It's unrestricted, so we don't require you to spend it on any particular project. Some schools will use it for their affiliate fee, but it's a great opportunity all around to just do a general fundraiser that we at the national office will really help you run and make everything very easy for you. So the fundraiser itself goes for 7 days, and this year it'll be from the 16th of February to the 23rd, and it goes from Friday to a Friday, starting the first Friday at 12:01 a.m. and going all the way to 11:59 p.m. on the 23rd. So as I mentioned, the competition aspect is that the top 3 schools who raise the most amount of money will each receive an extra cash prize above and beyond what they have already raised that week. There's also a prize for the school who has the most individual donors, and I'll talk more about those in just a couple of minutes, those prizes. So just a little bit of a recap to give you a sense of the scope of this campaign. Last year's Raise the Dough in total raised over $50,000 with the 26 schools that participated. And so as you can see in that picture of the top, this is just a snapshot of the top 10 schools and what they raised. We actually had a historic moment where we had 2 schools tie at exactly $8,000 raised, Gettysburg and the campus kitchen at Washington, D.C., followed up by the campus kitchen at Gonzaga College High School. So you can see there that there's certainly, while they certainly were raised quite a bit of money, it also spans quite a bit. I can share the link with last year's page as well, so you can see how everybody did, but I just wanted to share sort of the top 10 with you to show that you really can raise quite a bit of money, and it really comes down to what you put into it. And we'll talk a little bit more about best practices and the ways to really make this successful overall, but the key here is that you want to encourage as many donors as possible. We certainly recognize that a lot of your peers are going to be college students, who may not have a ton of money to be able to donate to you, but every dollar counts and it really does add up. So you can see next to the campus kitchen name is the number of donors. So to give you a sense of within that week, how many donors they had, followed by how much they raised. So that just sort of gives you a little bit of a snapshot of an idea how many, what you're looking at as far as the whole week goes. So those prizes I mentioned. So in first place, the first place school will receive $1,000. The second place school will receive 500, third place will receive 250, and then that most donor prize is 750. And I will just mention that you cannot get two prizes. So if you are eligible for more than one, for example, if you came in second place in amount raised, plus you also got most donors, then you'll get the prize with the highest dollar value. So in that case, you'd get the most donor prize, and then that second place would go to the next school in line. So some people will ask why the most donors is the second highest prize. And the key here is, like I mentioned, you really want to engage as many donors as you can. And we really want to encourage those smaller donations. The minimum to donate on our platform that we use, Razoo, is $5. So you can encourage people to donate any little bit. The other thing that you can do is you can do some offline donations as well, and I can talk to you offline about that and how to set that up as well. But that's really important because we want to we realize that there's a lot of folks around you and in your community that it might be a little bit harder to make those bigger donations, but that even if it's a small donation, every donation counts. So that's why that most donor is really the highest amount. So in going through some of the logistics, I'm going to break down as what we at the national office do and what we'd need you as the affiliate schools to do. So we will go through and set up your Razoo pages, and Razoo, like I mentioned, is the crowdsourcing platform that we use. So we do all the general setup and also cover the platform fees for you. So it means that the only fees that you have to worry about are the credit card fees, which we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes when we get to the actual MOU. We provide you with sample social media posts with graphics like the one that you see on the screen now. We create press releases for you, email content, so all sorts of things to really help you get the message out. Obviously, that'll need to be personalized by you, but we're going to give you the foundation and the basics to be able to get going with all of that. We also promote the fundraiser through all of our channels from the national level. Obviously, we don't play any favorites, but we do just share generally the information, not only with the Campus Kitchens Project Network, but also with DC Central Kitchen, who is our parent organization. We're a social venture of DC Central Kitchen. So we'll share it on their channels as well and really make sure that they get the message out. So we just sort of take all of the great work that you guys are doing and lift it up and distribute it to other people who may not know otherwise. And then we provide the prizes. So then on your end, the affiliate schools, the first thing that you need to do is just complete the MOU. So I'm going to flip over here and just tell you guys a little bit more about what an MOU is if you're not familiar. So the Memorandum of Understanding, it's due by February 1st, and you can find the MOU on the center, and if you don't know how to get onto the center, please send me an email and I'd be happy to help you. It's under the Raise the Dough actions. And then you can either submit it online or you can submit it directly to your PM or alumni advisor. Your PMs and alumni advisors also have a copy of the MOU. So if you're having trouble finding it, feel free to email them. I'll also include it in the follow-up email to you all. So basically the highlights of that state that the competition runs from February 16th to the 23rd, that only donations filtered online count. Basically, we are lending our 501c3 out to all of our affiliate schools so that your donors can be making tax-deductible gifts towards your campus kitchen, which can be a great incentive for people to give gifts as well. And then it also states, I mentioned a little bit earlier, that there is a small credit card processing fee for every donation. So that just understanding that is the only fee that will come out of your fundraiser. But if you have participated in the past, you'll remember that in the past there have been some additional fees. We've eliminated all of those. So this is the only fee that will come out of the donations that you raise. And then I did just want to add a note too that If you want to use Razoo at another time for another fundraiser during the year, you absolutely can. You just need to get in touch with us, and we would basically create another MOU very similar to this to do the same idea and lend out our 501c3 to you. So just keep that in mind, in the back of your mind as you're planning the rest of your year and the rest of your fundraisers. It's certainly something that we can help you sort out. So now just back to the other things that we look for from affiliate schools above and beyond the MOU is personalizing your Razoo page. So I will set up all of your pages for you, and then it's up to you to really make it personal. I mean, that's what really is going to drive donors, is going to be really giving a story, saying why you're fundraising. Is there a particular project that you're looking to fund this year? That can be so really getting in there and putting your Campus Kitchen's personal touch on it is really important. Obviously, getting the word out and competing. So really, it's not a ton on your shoulders, and that's why we really encourage all schools to participate now for this particular fundraiser, because it's really a no-lose situation. There's no cost to you to compete. So as long as you send your MOU in, we'll set up a page, and then anything from there is positive because every dollar counts. So I'm going to quickly walk through the timeline. So right now, joining these information sessions, so between now and February 1st, joining these information sessions, this is the first of 3. We've actually released a third one on the 31st at 3 o'clock. I'll send out some information about that later on as well. So just in case you want to share, you can share this recording, or you can have somebody join you on another webinar. We also have another one next week that is more sort of a deep dive into best practices of all sorts of crowdsourcing, and it's really geared towards schools who have participated in the past or who have now seen this webinar. Signing the MOU and getting that back to us by February 1st. And then this is also a really great team, as you guys are all coming back to school for the semester, to meet with your leadership team and start to plan for Raise the Dough. It's never too early to start making a plan, and the more that you have planned and ready to go, the more successful you'll be. So between February 1st and February 14th, I will be sharing access to your Razoo page. So that's when you can start to customize it by adding photos, relevant text, donation levels, thank you language. I'll also be sending around at that point a Razoo instructions document that's really specific to our Raise the Dough campaign, and so you can go through and follow all those instructions, so it'll be pretty easy to get everything set up. And then also setting your overall goal as well, as this is a great time to think about what you want your general goal to be. February 15th to the 17th is a great time to really start putting it out on social media and connecting with potential donors. You can always talk to your potential donors, especially your family and friends, and let them know that they should donate starting on the 16th. You just want to be careful because you don't want them to donate too early, so it won't count towards the competition. You'll absolutely still receive those donations. They just won't count towards the competition themselves. But start pushing, sharing information, letting folks know what's coming down the line. And then on the 16th through the 23rd is when everything really kicks off. So that's just sort of an overview of the timeline. The next thing I want to just share with you guys is I'm going to bring up last year's page just to give you a sense of what the Razoo page really looks like. So this is just the Raise the Dough homepage, and obviously when the competition is going on, this bar will sort of be slowly filling up. As I mentioned last year, we raised over $50,000 as a network, which was very exciting. All of the leaderboard is down here. So this is where you can take a look and see all of last year's, but this is also going forward. For the new page will be where you can see where you're ranked against other schools. It's a great way to sort of look at the other schools, and maybe you're neck and neck with another school that happens to be your athletic rival. That's a great way to, really get some an extra push for on social media or, in an email to try and get people really engaged. I'll just take a quick minute to show you this is Gettysburg's page from last year. So as I was mentioning, you can really personalize it with pictures. Your goal, you can go up here and set your goal for whatever you'd like. There's certainly no minimums, and I would certainly recommend, thinking about if you participated before, seeing how much you raised in the past. If you're unsure if your school has participated before, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to take a look and find you old pages if that would help give some context to it. I know that leadership teams transition, and if you weren't sure if you've participated before, feel free to let me know. So I was mentioning the story. This is a great place. So Gettysburg was specifically raising money for their Healthy Options program. So they wrote a little bit of shared some information about that program, what it does, and what the money will go towards. And then those custom donation levels that I mentioned, this is a cool new setting from Razoo in the last 2 years, that you can choose different levels. So it's when somebody hits donate, it gives you some options to say $25 will provide a family with 2 weeks of fresh produce. Now, obviously that can be whatever makes sense for your campus kitchen, but this is a great way. It can round up donations for people who maybe it was somebody who was thinking about donating $20, and then they see that another $5 will mean 2 weeks of fresh produce for a family, and they might bump their donation up again. Obviously, there's still the option for a custom donation of any level, but this can be a great way to really show folks what their donation is going towards. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Justyn, who's going to talk a little bit more about some best practices and really some outreach and communication for your Raise the Dough and crowdfunding in general. So Justyn, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and I'm going to hand the controls over to you.
Hi, thanks, Annie. How is everybody doing tonight? I hope everyone's staying warm. I know it's very chilly across most of the country right now. But just to introduce myself a little bit and let you know why I'm even here. My name is Justyn Hintze, and I have worked with DC Central Kitchen for just over maybe a year and a half now, and I worked with them on the last fundraising campaign, and I'm so excited to talk with you a little bit about best practices for crowdfunding. So I'm the senior strategist at Rad Campaign, and we're a full agency web development company, and we work with primarily nonprofit clients to help with their online strategy, help them raise money. We do infographics, all sorts of good things. So I actually have worked on lots of crowdfunding campaigns and helped run them, and would love to give you a little bit of the insight that I've accrued over the years. So let's see. You can feel free to follow me on Twitter, Rad Campaign, follow up with any questions afterward, and Annie can also provide my email address if that's easiest. But just to give you a little bit of a sense, this is something I pulled from an infographic we did a few years ago about best practices for crowdfunding. So we found that fundraisers that have a video and share a video end up raising twice as much as the people who are raising money without videos. And that's really just because people like that visual. They like to feel engaged. And it doesn't have to be long. It might just be somebody like filming themselves and saying, hey, like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're working on, and this is why it's important. We also found out that generally when people are crowdfunding, they tend to receive their first donation. People who receive their first donation within the first 3 days of the campaign are more likely to hit their fundraising goal. And this is just because there is a momentum there. So once people end up, oops, sorry about that, I have a puppy here. Once people end up in raising the money in the first 3 days, they see that people are already giving. So it's sort of like that philosophy about salting the tip jar. So I don't know if you've ever noticed or worked in maybe a coffee shop where people will put some money in the tip jar ahead of time and other people end up seeing that that money is there and they're more likely to tip. It's that same sort of concept. And then also people, really this is about working as a team to do this. So the people that you're working with really already care so much about what DC Central's kitchen is doing, what Campus Kitchens is doing. And so it's really about continuing to engage these supporters and bringing new people in. So like Annie mentioned, it's about engaging as many people as possible and really like just telling them about the awesome work that you're doing. So really then the question begs is, what's the best way to do these things and how can you best reach these people and do it in a way that's not going to annoy them because everyone gets so many emails in their inbox every single day. So as you go, if you have any questions that come up, feel free to type them in the chat box and I will address them as we're talking. I'm more than happy to be interrupted with some questions. But the first thing that you should really do is to tell engaging and personal stories. And storytelling is so, so critical when you're crowdfunding because people want to connect with the story. And when you're connecting people to your fundraiser in a way that's real, you're going to bring more people in, you're going to really give them a reason to give. So tell them why you got involved. Tell them about your most impactful experiences since you've been involved. Explaining these things and either putting them in your fundraising pages or sending out emails or just when you're talking to people, being able to say, here's my story and here's the story of the people I work with and this is why the thing that we're doing is so important. People are going to respond to that. Also make sure you're branding your fundraising pages. So I know DC Central Kitchen goes ahead and sets them up for you. And Campus Kitchens gets that all running, but make sure that you have some branding so that people recognize that when you do something, you're doing it for Campus Kitchens. So when you're doing these asks, make sure that it's very clear what they're for, who they're for, and why you're doing this. People being able to see whether you have social media accounts, whether it's your crowdfunding page, your website, your Facebook page, whatever it is, Instagram, having branding across all of these is going to be so much more consistent and will let people know that it's something that's real and they're not just giving to some random college student's lunch fund. It's really about actually branding this and letting people understand that you're really across networks and you have a larger presence than they might realize, whether it's actually a large presence or not. Also setting goals. So while you're like, of course the goal is to raise as much money as you possibly can. It's to win that awesome prize money. But setting realistic fundraising goals are going to give you something to check in with your team about. It's going to give you something to work toward, and it's going to let other people who are donating see how much money that you really need. So think about something that you're A, going to be able to raise, and B, something that's actually going to be tangible to help you with what you need within your campus kitchen. So I know Annie mentioned some of you might need a new fridge, some people might need new cookware, whatever it is. Think about these things, outline them, maybe not publicly, but privately, and think about how much you need and think about how much you can raise. And like Annie said, people don't have a ton of money when your network is in colleges, but every single dollar is actually going to count in this. Micro donations account for so much of fundraising. And it's because that $5, if everyone gives, you can, and you ask people in each of your classes or whatever it is, you're going to raise so much more money when that's happening. If the leaderboard that Annie showed before, the two that tied in first place, one of them I think had over 100 donors and the other one only had 50 donors. And it just, that one that had over 100 still beat the one that only had 50 donors, or they tied with them. And that's incredibly impressive. So setting these goals and then having something to work toward is going to be so important from the beginning. To really get to these goals, though, you'll need to have a plan. So this will be about promoting the fundraiser and across your personal networks, and that's going to also be across channels. So maybe you're only on Instagram. You don't really like Facebook, you're not really into Twitter, and you think people get too many emails. But the people that you want to reach are going to be on other networks. So other people might be on Facebook. They might use email on a regular basis because despite what people think, email is not dead. It's actually still the #1 way that people raise money. So emailing people to let them know about your campaign and reaching people where they're at. So going online, making some phone calls, whatever it is. If your grandma is not online but you want her to donate, give her a phone call. She's a Skype, even better. But it's really about a way to reach people where they're at and come up with a plan. So what does a plan look like? You can do a content calendar where you actually just take your calendar out and write down dates that you're going to send emails, write down dates that you want to hit a certain goal by. You can even go ahead and in that content calendar, write out everything in advance, so you're not scrambling at the last minute to write that email or that tweet or that Facebook post, and you have everything laid out for the entirety of the campaign, that when that day comes, you just hit send, and you can schedule it all in advance. And it's a way to make it easy that you don't have to scramble, or you don't say, oh no, I didn't study for this test and I need to go ahead and write this thing last minute. You'll already have it written, and that's going to be hugely, hugely beneficial. I actually recommend that organizations do it regularly, because similarly they get swamped last minute and then end up not sending the email or the tweet. And in retrospect, they wish they would have had it written in advance. That tends to help. And also your network, they want to help you. They believe in you. They believe in what you're doing. And asking for money can be really uncomfortable sometimes, but it's so important. These people want to support what you're doing. Just remember that. Remember that they're on your team, and that asking them for money isn't a bad thing. You're doing amazing work, and to continue to do that work, you have to have funding. So when you're reaching out to these people, like I said, people's inboxes are bombarded on a daily basis with emails asking for money, asking for support, asking for volunteers. And so you need to stand out. You need to grab people's attention. And sometimes that means offering incentives. And because you are raising money, you do not want to offer monetary incentives because that is going to defeat the purpose of you raising money for your cause. So instead, think of things that you could maybe do. So what are some incentives that are fun or weird that are going to actually get people's attention? So maybe you're going to write the name of every donor who gives during your campaign on your apron or your chef's hat. And you can even break down the incentives by dollar. So if you write on your crowdfunding page, if you give $10, you get your name on my apron. If you give $50, you get your name on my chef's hat. And you can write all of the donors on there. If you give $100, I'll name a dish after you. If you give $200, you get to lick the beaters, you get to take home a cake. And think about things that you are able to actually make or offer as services for a low stress for you, since you are going to be in school running this campaign and making food, that are going to be simple, but also things that'll be incentives for people to continue giving. So if you are awesome at that German chocolate cake and it's your best recipe, maybe name it after someone, and then for a $200 donation, deliver it to them later that week if they're in your city. And that can be a really great way to get people excited and engaged, and really help them have incentives to continue to give to you. And each of these things, of course, you can really brainstorm and tailor based on your availability, your abilities, and who your community is. Speaking of community, those are going to be the people who are going to know you the most, support you the most. So keeping them updated on your fundraising progress is so important, because they're going to want to know where you're at. They're going to want to know how far away from your goal you are. So if you still have 50% to reach your goal, then let them know that. Let them know how much help you still need. And let them know through email, update people on social media. People are going to be following along wherever they are, like I said. So make sure you're updating all of your channels and not neglecting one just because you don't use it, even if you know maybe your family or your friends or your professors are on what network. And just let them know how far you are, how close you are, and like those successes. So if someone donates a couple $100, that's amazing and something to celebrate. And so maybe do like a little Facebook live stream or an Instagram story where you can actually like show everybody celebrating and jumping around in the kitchen. And that could be a really fun way to keep people engaged in the process and remind them that you're fundraising. And it's an incredible way to remind people if they haven't given yet. So they'll see that you're celebrating, but you're not to your goal yet. So they might be inclined to give. And if you do reach your goal, you can always increase it too. So it doesn't look like you've met your goal on your page, because really what is more money is only going to help and will help keep you sustained throughout the year. So while you're updating your community, it's so important to demonstrate that impact that you're having, and not just with the dollar amounts given, but showing what that does for your community. What impact are you having? How are you giving back? And how are these dollars, these tangible dollars, actually going to change lives? How is that going to impact communities? So one of my favorite things to tell people is that it's so great for people to see a breakdown, even just very, very generalized, of what their dollar is going to. So if you have a list on your crowdfunding page, perhaps of $15 will provide 3 meals, or $100 will ensure that we get a new refrigerator. $200 will let us feed the community for X nights. Things like that, where you're able to show people tangible things that their money is going toward. People love that because they don't feel like they're just giving to this, I don't know, this black hole where they don't actually see where their money is going. So while you talk about it and you say, yes, like this is all the good work we're doing, letting someone see a tangible impact is going to be so wonderful for them to want to give more or more often, or even become a sustained donor if you need money in the future. So I actually just pulled our impact last year from the Campus Kitchens website, because these are huge numbers to show what is happening across the country, and look at nearly 400,000 meals delivered to clients, and over 32,000 student volunteers who have prepared meals for communities nationwide, and almost 100,000 pounds of food recovered. That's amazing. Without Campus Kitchens, that food would never have been recovered. It would have just gone to waste. And that is such a powerful statistic to tell people. And instead of listing them in statistics like I did, build them instead into your story. Going back to that storytelling piece, really build it in and talk about it and make it part of your story, because it is. And most importantly, thank your donors. Make sure that you are thanking the people who are giving, because you want them to feel valued. You want them to know that their money is going somewhere good, and you want them to feel appreciated, because every single dollar is going to help you get to your goal. And so thanking them, whether that's via email, a phone call, a handwritten letter. People do not get handwritten letters enough nowadays, and it could be really nice to just write a quick note and send it over and show your appreciation for what they're doing. But really, it's about showing your donors that appreciation, giving them shout outs on social media. That public recognition is something people like much more than they often admit. But it's a really great way to also then continue to get other donors to, when people see that someone else has given, and to make somebody feel really good and make someone want to give again. So always, always thank your donor, show appreciation. That will be so critical for this campaign. And really, it's just about supporting your community, reaching out, asking for money, practicing with friends if you don't feel comfortable asking. Practice, practice, practice. While practice might not make perfect, it will definitely help a lot. And nothing is really perfect. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and any questions you have, I would love to pass them over.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justyn. And I certainly echo everything you said, and just wanted to build on a couple things. As far as those statistics go, Individual schools should all have access to them. If you're unsure about how to find those numbers in Apricot, please feel free to reach out to me or your PM or alumni advisor. It's just a pretty easy report to be able to pull out of Apricot. So if you're unsure about how to find any of those, because absolutely, as Justyn said, those are a really great way to really show your impact in your community throughout the last year or semester, or maybe even since your campus kitchen started. There's some really great, lots of great work being done out there, and we want to be able to help you show that. Also, the other thing that I wanted to echo too was just that really hammer home the small donations matter. Last year, in the first $7,500 raised total, all but one donation was $100 or under. So that really hits home. These are not, people who are coming in with $1,000 gifts by any stretch of the imagination. These are going to be small and small gifts, but with a lot of quantity and lots of individual gifts as opposed to a large amount. So just keep that in mind as you're pitching and you're thinking about how to approach donors. So we can certainly open it up to questions here. Let me just pull us back over. There we go. All right, so I wanted to add too that we do, like I mentioned earlier, have a couple of more information sessions coming up in the next 2 weeks. Next Thursday, same time, is the best practices, and that'll really do a deep dive into those Razoo pages. They've rolled out some new features, and then an opportunity to share some best practices, not only from us, but also from some schools who participated before as well. So certainly keep that in mind. And then, like I mentioned, we've added another one that's just sort of a rounded out. It's a little bit of everything. Anything you need to know for Raise the Dough. So certainly you're more than welcome to join either of those or share that information with any of your leadership team members as well. So I will open it up to questions. Feel free to either put them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and go ahead and just ask them out loud.
Hi. Hello?
Go ahead.
Sorry. So I was just wondering what specific types of donors a lot of campus kitchens have reached out to in the past have been successful.
Absolutely.
On and off.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, I was just saying on and off campus.
Absolutely. So just as a starting place, a lot of campus kitchens, especially in their first year, will start by reaching out just to their immediate circles, their friends and family. And like I mentioned, we'll send you some template emails to be able to send out and some social media posts as well. You'll be surprised, your great aunt, who you haven't talked to since her birthday last year might, come out of the woodwork and decide to make a donation. So that's a great place to start, is just reaching out to your circle, your friends, your family. Then beyond that, reaching out to your community. Think about who your community partners are and whether or not there are some folks with, whether maybe it's a local business or someone that you recover food from. And even if they aren't making a direct donation, you can also just turn around and ask them to share the information. Share an email, share a Facebook post with their community, and really build on that. The essence of this campaign in general is to really push things online. So really using those connections to get out there. But you can, I think a great place to start is your friends and family, your friends on campus, you can set up maybe it's a table, in your student center or dining hall with a little bit of information about what you're doing and a computer, and you can collect donations that way. And that's really, as Justyn made a really great point about practicing, and I think that's a really, really great idea to practice in your friends, so that then when you're talking to students that you may not know, or maybe it's professors or college university staff, that's a great opportunity to make those pitches to them in a really clear and concise way, and really sell that story to them. So did that sort of answer your question about sort of those who you're reaching out to?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm wondering, what about departments on campus? Do you think that would be different departments would be good to approach as well?
Absolutely, and I think certainly, and you know them best as far as what they can and can't, or what you think they will be able to help you with. So that ask might be tailored to them a little bit more. So maybe it's a soft ask for an actual donation, but a harder ask to share or put up a flyer, or add something to their newsletter or talk about it in class. There might be a different way to frame it a little bit more, so that the message gets out a little bit further. But I think departments, and the other piece of this is that this is a great opportunity just to get your mission out there, and really get people to know what you're doing, because there might be departments on campus that have no idea about the great work that you're doing. So you can look at that as sort of a twofold opportunity to not only try and get donations for Raise the Dough, but also to share some information about what your campus kitchen is doing.
Thank you.
Can I jump in real quick too?
Absolutely.
So I would also suggest that when you reach out to someone, maybe you ask for a donation and that's not something that's feasible to give. When, as Annie said, if you say, well, will you share this information? Always follow up with an email and then include sample messages for people. So people sometimes will say, sure, I'll share that, but then don't have the language to really share exactly what you want them to say. So giving sample maybe notes for emails or sample Facebook or Twitter posts can always be really beneficial as well. And then from there, thinking about different, maybe other campus organizations that you want to partner with, and maybe not on a full-time basis, but even reaching out and just saying like, hey, I think that we believe in the same mission. It'd be awesome if you could share what we're doing right now with your constituents. And when you have something come up, we'll be able to flop and share something for you as well.
Thanks, Justyn. That's an excellent point. Any other questions? I think a couple of questions we had come in a little bit earlier. One of them was about is there a minimum that we need to raise, or are there any restrictions? I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just wanted to really hammer home that no, there is no minimum that you need to raise, and there are no restrictions about ways that you need to spend that money that comes back to you. So that's really up to you. And again, I just want to echo that there is really no downside to participating. You'd be surprised how easy it is to, just get rolling with Raise the Dough. Let's see. I think I've covered a lot of the other questions. They're about documents that you need to fill out, and really what this all entails. Is there any other questions floating around? Feel free. It can be anything about Raise the Dough or not. It can be other things too.
And if you have any throughout my portion of the presentation, little questions like that are super helpful, so don't hesitate to ask about that as well.
All right, well, it doesn't, I know it was a lot of information, so I certainly know that this was, it's good to sort of let things digest for a few days. So I will follow up with everyone tomorrow morning with, like I mentioned, the recording of this webinar, the slides, the MOU, and then the contact information. Obviously, you've already have my contact information, but I'll also share Justyn's so that you can reach out to either one of us with any questions about Raise the Dough, crowdfunding, anything we talked about here. Like Justyn said, we're more than happy, even if it's a little question that you think is silly. It's not silly, it matters, and we're here to help you. We really want to make this a really successful fundraiser for you. This is all about your opportunity to fundraise, and we want to help you make it as successful as possible. So thank you all for joining us so much. Thank you so much to Justyn for giving us all of that wisdom. It was so great to have you join us this year, and have a lovely night, everyone. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all. So great to join you. And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.